I'm Mario, and today we're inside my Geo Pro travel trailer, and my objective today is to install this faucet here that I purchased. So essentially what this is a faucet designed for a residential style bathroom, and the intention is to install it over here. The reason why I want to change it is maybe I can get more access in here or have a more high-grade faucet. That's one reason. But really what's happened here is this sink leaks. And I don't really know exactly why it leaks. And so it leaked when I picked it up from the dealer and they tried working on it. I think working on it meant they turned the hose fitting a little bit tighter, and that was their solution. So I'm just going to go ahead and start by just replacing the faucet. However, I have come prepared with some supplies here, and I'll go over exactly how I came about choosing these items here. The first thing I want to do is determine what size the supply lines are for the kitchen sink, and also determine what type of line I'm dealing with. I'm going to guess that these are PEX, and so what I'm going to do then is try to see if I can take a picture with my camera phone and see if there's any labeling. I know PEX lines have labels on the outside, and so that'll help me determine what sort of fitting I might need. All right, and then so here we are inside. So those blue and red lines, and forgive the flashing, it's the only light that I have, but those blue and red lines are the ones that I'm referring to. So I wasn't able to get much more information than some information regarding the manufacturer of those lines. They are a product that is similar to PEX, meaning that it's just a different manufacturer. So that gives me an understanding of what sort of connectors I can use for that supply line. So that's helpful information. But I still don't know what the inside diameter is, what the outside diameter is. But I might be able to gather some information off of the faucet here concerning those connectors right there, which are just twist screws. So I was able to get that information by shoving my camera phone up in there. What I can do though is I can also take these calipers here and I can get an idea. I'm going to guess that this is 1/2 inch, but I'm just going to measure using these calipers right here. Okay, so here we are. I got a number here. So essentially what I'm talking about is a 1/2 inch outside diameter, and it's really 6/10. So the inside diameter is probably 1/2 inch, and I'm sure there's a metric equivalent for that. So with that, I'm going to start moving towards getting the little twist screws that are underneath this faucet right here. When I remove the faucet, you'll get an understanding of what it is I'm talking about here. I'm sure you've seen them before. So I have the supply lines detached from the faucet. Just had my little bowl here, a couple paper towels. Yeah, not too much water. I mean, you just relieve the pressure by opening up the valves, and you're not going to have too big of a mess. All right, but let's see what we got up the stairs. So these are what hold the faucet to the sink. Those are threading over these. And on this one, the measurement here between the center of this inlet and the center of this inlet, this is 4 inches, which is a standard. At least I'm hoping it's 4 inches. But at any rate, there you go. This is what's getting replaced. This blue line is the culprit here. That little metal piece right here, that might be leaking from there, and I'm not certain if it's leaking there or if it was just simply leaking at the compression fitting here. So there's a little rubber piece that presses up in there. To help understand what I'm referring to, there's a little rubber piece right in there. So that threading there, that should be, I'm guessing that's a 1/2 inch IPS. So it'd be like iron pipe size. And what that is it's a compression fitting. And when I disconnected that, when I unthreaded that, it seemed like that rubber gasket there was not really working very well. So that's the next thing. I'm going to pull that out and inspect it to see if maybe that's where the leak was coming from. And another reason I'm going through these extra steps is I may want to reuse this. I don't think this is actually what's leaking, because actually I think it might be a good fit to use that here so that I'm not busting my knuckles underneath this faucet here. So in preparation for this little project, I went ahead and purchased a few items like I mentioned before. So I'm going to run down those items. And what I think I'm going to do, after looking at the little rubber gaskets, I think what happened was that it just wasn't seated properly. So when they went and they did the compression, when they went and did the compression fitting, it wasn't properly seated. So I'm going to go ahead with my new faucet, which I desire anyway. I'm going to try to see if I can get it to seat and see if it still leaks. But in case of a problem in the future, I still have these items available to me. One of them is this angle stop valve with faucet connector. So what's happening here is I have the appropriate adaptation from the 1/2 inch PEX to the faucet inlet, as we were talking about that IPS, that iron pipe standard. So there's that threaded fitting. So it's either going to take a 3/8 outside diameter ball fitting, or it's going to take the 1/2 inch IPS. So you might see it, you go to the big box stores and they have the pre-made hoses to go from the service to the toilet tank, or the service at your house to a faucet, or the ice maker. And so what they do is there's standardized sizes there, and so you can't just grab any adapter, you have to get it to match up. Additionally, what I have are these clamps here which crimp on using a special PEX tool. These are all SharkBite products here, and what's critical is that you get the correct ones. So actually I'm gonna have to back up a second, but to finish with this item here, this is not the copper ring, and then this is a crimping tool specific for these type of PEX clamps. These, I believe they're steel, and so those are just steel band. So another thing that is specific to these SharkBites is you want to get the appropriate color. So if you can see that, it's kind of like a tan color or maybe a copper color. So these colors, these color codes for these SharkBite products, they're specific to the type of pipe that you're trying to adapt to. So these work with PEX. They also work with copper tubing and one other product that's skipping my mind. But the point is that don't get the wrong SharkBite product for your type of piping. And then so the last product that I bought in anticipation of issues is this cutting tool. And there are more expensive tools available, but the point is that I'm going to have this available if I have a plumbing issue in this travel trailer. For any 1/2 inch PEX issues, I should be able to make a connection from one of the lines to a faucet. I can crimp on another fastener, and in fact I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab maybe some plugs. So maybe all I have to do is just cut it, and then I can crimp on a plug. And so here is the faucet that I'm looking to use in the future, and it's not dissimilar from the one that's in there, other than I can definitely feel a weight difference. And instead of the plastic inlets, I have these metal ones. I'm going to assume this is brass or some sort of alloy. And at any rate, it's just, I don't have to go over it too much, just a more substantial unit. And it also comes with the little fasteners here, so I can attach this to my sink. I believe I have the supply lines threaded on there appropriately. What I chose to do was not totally tighten the sink down, so I can have some play on the actual appliance and move it around to help line up the threads with the threads of the inlet connector there. So I'm not using a wrench, and you can see I'm just making the final twists. So I'm gonna have to move my hand like this, but I'm just making the final twists here just to cinch it up. And it's not, I shouldn't need a lot of torque on there. Like I said, it's just a compression fitting. And so there we go. So this is tight also. And then what I did was, before I really, you saw like there wasn't much resistance. So I checked the resistance, make sure that I was starting the thread and I didn't cross thread by kind of holding the faucet still with my right hand, and then here this is my left hand, and I just basically went backwards on the thread to try to find where the thread started, and then turned inwards, just because you've got to make sure these are at a right angle here. So I'm guessing this is done. As a backup, I still have those other parts. So I feel confident that with the tools that I have here, I can manage any leaks that I have in the future with this faucet. And now also I'll go back to the store and I'll grab some other adapters like I mentioned, like maybe a plug or something else. Like I don't have everything I need, but at least maybe I can stop the leak. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my water pump on. Just going to let this run. I don't want any air in there. So I did detect one leak on the hot water supply line. So what I did was I just put my hand in there and I backed out the screw a little bit so I could feel some of the pressure leaking out, and then just reseated it with the pressure on, and it seems to be dry right now. So I have my little bowl in there, aka cereal bowl. I have that in there with some paper towels. I'll leave the water pump on, and I've cycled it a couple of times. So this is just to test it. And what was happening before, it was I had intermittent issues, and then so all the more reason to have these backup parts in case those inexpensive fittings, in case those fittings are going to create any issues. Because if you look at what the replacement fitting looks like here, I mean, that's metal. Obviously the compression fitting is not metal, but the threads are metal. So that's my backup. And I think I can move forward and today and get this in the bathroom sink, so I won't have the that knuckle buster over there. So I think that concludes this video, and thanks for watching. I'll give you guys any updates if in fact I do have to swap out with those other backup parts. Anyway, all right, take care, folks.